Welcome back to the Stephen Knight Show final episode. As we look back over the past 15 seasons, we would be remiss if we didn't catch up with one of our original co hosts who not only co hosted but was very influential in the charity work that we did on the show. She was part of the Stephen Knight Show for over 10 years. Please help me welcome back the one and only Miss Parker. Welcome back to the Stephen Knight Show.
Thank you. That sounds insane.
Can you believe
Over
it?
10 years. So 15 seasons. How many years is that total? 15 years?
It's about 15, 16, yeah.
That
Yeah.
is insane. I saying it out loud just blows my mind.
No. Do you remember when I first got offered to do the show? We were working together, and I came to you and I said they want me to do a show, and I said, and you said, okay, I'll do it with you. But I think you were just kind of saying it flippantly, and I was like, let's do it, let's do it. Do you remember?
Yeah, so I remember that. I'm thinking back now, I was like in my 20s. We
Yeah,
were at, I think, 24, 25. That's insane. We were at, yeah, we worked together and we started doing it. We changed the days a few
yeah.
times, but I think it started originally was Friday nights.
Friday nights, and
Yeah.
'cause we started in January 2011, and it was fine because it was cold. And then that summer
Right.
started hitting in Atlanta. You said, Steven, I love you, but I need my Fridays.
That is true. We changed it on Mondays. Yeah. So we started in January and I don't like being outside when it's cold. So I was like, fine with me.
Yeah, yeah. But
Um,
I used to come to
then
the place and
the
do it. Remember, I used to
yeah,
come to High Rise Town?
yeah, I stayed in the high rises, was do it from my house. We used to have so much fun. We'll order food or I'll
Yeah.
cook.
Uh-huh.
And I think it was April. The weather started warming up, and I'm
Yep.
like, Friday nights, it just seems so inconvenient. I was like, no, let's talk about changing the date.
Exactly.
So we
Exactly.
changed it to 7 p.m. on a Monday, which made more sense for me. But I think that's when you started doing it at home. We figure out how to do it in
Monday.
two different places because I think at first it was a technology thing. Like think
Yeah.
about 2011, we didn't have the
Mhm.
technologies that we have now. So we did it together.
Yeah.
We had to physically be in the same space, I think. So we had to figure out like how we do it from two different places. Um, so yeah, I never could imagine it being, going on this long, but that's
No.
amazing.
I know. So, what do you think about? Because early on, you helped out with the interviews. I know you played a big part in the Hot Towers, but you helped out with the interviews. Do you remember any interviews that stuck out to you, or moments that stuck out to you?
No, honestly, I that was so way back.
I know.
The Hot Topics was more recent, but the interviews, I know we interviewed a lot of really amazing artists.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't really remember
Our first
anyone that stuck
one?
out to me. I think maybe Faith
Yeah, Faye.
Evans, because we knew someone who knew her personally, so that
Uh,
was kind of cool.
yeah.
But yeah, it was I forgot all about that. Yeah, I did interview with you when we
Yeah.
first started.
Our first celebrity interview was with Fonzworth Bentley. Do you remember that?
Oh no, but the thing is you have amazing memory anyway. So there are a lot of things you're gonna bring up. I'm like, no, I don't remember
Right.
that. You remember dates and first and all those things. So but I do remember him being on the show. But
Yeah.
I don't remember that him being our first. Who scheduled him?
I think their team reached out to us, but it was early on.
Okay.
It was our first season. First season we got Fonzo Bentley. Yeah, I remember they gave us a list of questions we couldn't ask him. I'm like, how they gonna tell us who we can ask?
And to
But,
imagine like our little show, like having
but
artists reach out to us, that was kind of I used to always think, why are they reaching out to us?
uh,
But that was before social media and people had platforms. And
mhm.
so if you think about it, like shows like the Stevie Knight Show really played a big part in a lot of artists staying relevant and
Yeah,
not having social media presence and marketing people like they do now.
right.
They will go and do shows, do internet shows.
Yeah. Well, I remember. Do you remember the first year? Because one thing you really took on was the charitable work that we did,
Mhm.
introducing us to a lot of different charities. You want to talk about some of that and kind of why that was important to you?
Yeah, I think for me, giving back has always been a part of my life and who I am.
Yeah.
I am super sensitive to different topics and people without you know un unhoused. I want
Yeah.
to use the proper term.
Right.
People it's just something that I think shouldn't be a part of our society.
Mhm.
So I think the charity that I decided that I was going to personally try to support it, and I brought you along, was Love Beyond Walls. I'm actually still part of, pushing some of their agendas,
Yeah.
and I have a monthly donation that I make. I still really believe in what he does, and how he is, he's reminding us to show everyone, that everyone deserves dignity, no matter
Right.
if they have a home or not. And
Mhm.
I think his most recent um, attention that he's bringing to attention is people who can't afford groceries, due
Yeah.
to the fact that the benefits were impacted. So he sat on his refrigerator, empty refrigerator, in front of the building, for like the last 7 days,
Yeah.
until the SNAP benefits were restored. Just reminding people that there are people out there with empty refrigerators. So I think I was just moved by how he took really drastic measures to bring attention to homelessness. The first time I saw him was he slept under a bridge for 90 days. It may have been six. It may have been longer,
Yeah.
but I saw him on the news, and he slept on the bridge to bring attention to homelessness. He had a home, he had a family, and the news was following him, and I was just like, oh my goodness. And then the next thing he did was he walked across the U.S. to
Yeah.
bring
Yeah.
attention to homelessness. So the organization is called Love Beyond Walls, just in case you're interested in looking them up and learning more about them. But they really impacted me, and the organization has really played a big part in the Stephen Knight show. We've collected tennis shoes. Remember that?
Yeah.
They said the number one thing that homeless people
Mhm.
need are socks and tennis shoes, and we were like, what? Because
Yeah.
we thought coats. Remember, we used to
Oh,
collect
yeah.
coats, and but I think just the awareness that people walk so much, so
Mm.
shoes is important.
Yeah.
And when we started collecting shoes and collecting donation to buy shoes, that would be the first thing gone
First thing.
when we take it down to either to a homeless shelter or to Love Beyond Walls, or we did a few events in the park. I think for 7 years or so,
Mhm.
um, the weekend after Thanksgiving or closer to Christmas, we'll go to, oh, I'm sorry, MLK weekend.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, MLK weekend, we'll take coats and shoes and things like that to the park, and food. We take coffee, warm
Mhm.
because it's cold in January,
Yeah.
water. So yeah, that was, I think, when we started being active in the community, that was probably my favorite thing about being a part of the Stevie Knight shows, that people really rally around us to provide the items that we needed to support the causes
Yeah.
that we stood behind. So that I thought that was pretty amazing.
Yeah. And we also did volunteer work with the Salvation Army and Cheesecake Factory on Thanksgiving.
Yes, Thanksgiving Day. Yes, we will go on Thanksgiving Day and volunteer with them, because Salvation Army and Cheesecake have a Thanksgiving Day dinner,
Yeah.
and so they sponsor each other. It's done at the Salvation Army downtown. Cheesecake sponsors the food, the
Mhm.
band and media and all those things. Cheesecake takes care of that, but the goal there is that volunteers will serve people
Mhm.
in the community, right? So these are people of the community who may not have Thanksgiving plans, or maybe short on groceries. They bring their entire family, and they're seated at a table, just like if you would go to a restaurant. So
Yeah.
giving them a restaurant experience, which I thought was always such a cool idea, right? Because a lot of times these people in the community don't have the extra income to go out to eat. So
Mhm.
the goal there is to like give them that experience of going out to eat. So we'll wait on them. We'll bring their drinks, bring their plates, clean up after them. They still do it. It's just now I have an extra person that I have to look after. My dad is here now.
Yeah.
He's 80. So Thanksgiving Day, I'm running behind, back and forth to his place, trying to make sure he's fine, because he doesn't like to come over here and socialize. But yeah, it's that I forgot about that. That was
Mhm.
that organization, and that program was also a really big part of our Thanksgiving. And a friend of mine that I met at the gym, he was a district manager at Cheesecake Factory, and invited me in, and we started going. So pretty
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. I know in 2020 when we started doing video with, because during the pandemic we started going to video, and you had started Mindful Mondays. You remember that?
Yeah, yeah, Mindful Mondays.
And I know, I mean, you've been, since I've known you pretty much, you've been on a continuous growth, as we get older. And you wanted to bring that kind of mentorship or enlightenment to the audience. Tell us about that and the story behind it.
Yeah, I think for me, 2020 was a very difficult time. I was having anxiety attacks. I
Mhm.
hadn't watched the news in years, like watched the news like back to back kind of programming, but I would read up on the news because I did hot topics for the
Right.
Stevie Knight show. So I had to keep keep updated
Mhm.
on what was going on. But as far as like sitting in front of the TV, I had made a conscious decision not to do that years prior because
Mhm.
of my mental health. Like it affected my mental health. And I do believe that whatever you put into your body, your mind, that kind of it shows up in your life, right? So I'm very mindful of like that type of things. But um, I um, I started Mindful Mondays because I was struggling during COVID. COVID was a bit of 2020 was a bit of mixed emotions for me. There
Yeah.
were times I really enjoyed the quiet. The first 3 months I had time to hike. I work in at that time I just got a job in what we call big tech. So it was them trying to figure out which new technology they
Mhm.
needed to develop for this new environment of COVID. So all of our projects stopped for the first 3 months. I think 90 days or so. I had time to hike. I ran 500 miles the first 3 months because the gyms were closed. I was just outdoors doing things. And
Right.
for me, being outdoors is like a spiritual journey and a spiritual, it feeds my
Right.
soul.
Yeah.
So that was fine. But once things started moving back, like the company figured, okay, we're going to need these technologies. Um, Work got amazing, like crazy, crazy. I think I was managing 180 projects
Yeah.
and 56 hiring managers. It was just crazy. So I needed to like put in place the things that I knew to
Right.
keep me still, to keep me sane with all the craziness going on. Work was stressful. So I implemented I think I did a 10-minute yoga routine in the morning, a mindful Monday meditation, which I started doing every morning. So it was because it was helping me. I thought, okay, well, this let me remind people that they do have tools. We do have these things that we can access to keep us calm and like to remind us and ground us. So that was the motivation behind that. It was just trying to keep my own mind sane.
Helpful, very helpful as well. And I know in at the end of season 10, you decided to step down, although you still help behind the scenes with charity work, continue to do that. What do you want to say about your reason? And I was in full support because I felt like you had done 10 years and I had given you all out. Remember, I would say, hey, if y'all don't want to join this season, y'all were there every season rocking with me. But what ultimately made you decide to step away from being on camera every week?
Yeah, I think it was part of that. It was 2020, and I felt like having to keep up with the news, and then because
Yep.
I was doing at that time, I was doing Hot Topic, which most of the Hot Topic revolved around Trump administration.
Mhm.
It revolved around what was going on with COVID, what was going on with Black Lives Matters. It was
Yep.
just too heavy, right?
Yeah.
And so having to watch that, be part of that, live through that, and then have to talk about it on cue every Monday really was impacting me. That was a decision that I talked through with my therapist. Like I said, I have all the tools, I used all the
Yeah.
tools, and we just decided that I just needed to kind of back away from that for my own like mental health and peace. But I knew that you were surrounded by people who were capable and who will love to join in and make an impact there as well and support you in that way. So I knew I wasn't leaving you leaving you
I
without
trust
support,
no.
high
Yeah.
and dry without support. Yes.
Yeah. No, and I remember when you talked to me about it, and I was obviously understood, was full support, and I knew it'd be some big shoes to fill,
Thank you.
but no, but I definitely and you did and you have continued to help out with the charitable work. But I definitely wanted to talk to everyone who was part of the shows, especially had a huge impact. People only see what we see on the show, but they don't see the behind the scenes. You pulling me, Steve. We got to do this. We got to raise this money. We got to just charity event. Steve might
Yeah.
wait till the last minute. Steve,
Yeah.
but all of it really helped not only just with the legacy of the show, but also help the community, which was always a big part of what we did. I remember our first year, we worked with the Angel Tree Network, and we were able to donate money to this mother who
Mhm.
couldn't provide. And do you remember when I think it was in 2015, we had the grandmother who was raising her grandkids, and she did not.
Yeah, we did the mother and her family for the Angel Tree. We
Yeah,
also sponsored the grandmother and her two kids. We got backpacks and
yeah,
Christmas gifts and things like that. That's for me, I think has been would be the leg is going to be part of
yeah,
the Stevie Knight show's legacy
yeah,
is that the show was, part entertainment, part news, but really the heart of it was how we showed up in the community and how everyone kind of really rally around us to make sure that we had what we needed to support the community. I remember one time we like raised like 1,500, and I was so shocked.
yeah.
I was like,
Like
oh
a
my
couple
god,
weeks, like in 2 weeks or something like
yeah,
that.
we had like 2 weeks, and then all they was like I just kept sending texts. And people were sending $200, $300, $100 here, and I was like, oh my god. We actually gave a check to Love Beyond Walls, if you remember, $1,000.
We did.
Then
How about that?
yeah, we did $1,000 check, and then we also then the $500. I think we bought coats and shoes. We
Yeah,
actually bought new tennis shoes that year because we could afford to buy new tennis
it
shoes
was funny.
took it to their Christmas giveaway. So yeah, it's for me. I think that's what I'm going to take away.
Right.
Yeah, we can go back and talk about the celebrities that we
Yeah.
spoke to. I barely remember those things,
Right.
but
Right.
what really stuck with me is the impact.
Yeah. No, I definitely agree. I definitely agree. Well, Miss Parker, I want to thank you again because you helped me get this thing off the ground. You know, we talked about the charitable work that you did, and I probably wouldn't be able to keep up with all of that if it wasn't for you. And just for your just for the impact and the support and the influence you had on the show for as long as you were on, I mean, over a decade. To me, that's a long
Yeah.
time. So I wanted to definitely thank you and thank you for joining this final episode of the Stephen Knight Show. I cannot believe it. But yeah, so what do you want people to what's your takeaway, your final thoughts as we wrap up?
I think I think the show speaks clearly and loudly about building something and sticking with it. I think you've done an amazing job of like showcasing that, right? Something you started 15, 16 years ago when internet radio wasn't even like a big thing. People were used to always ask, how do you guys do it? Where do you listen to it? It was just like a weird having to explain, oh, you click on this link and you listen to it online. But that just shows that you can start something and really stick it throughout the years and all the things that have happened. I think we've been through two presidents and
Yeah,
4 terms and all those things, and actually three presidents and a bunch more terms. I mean, but it's been interesting to see the growth, the different ways that you adapt to the times, going from mindful Mondays to instead of having two interviewers, now having the sports segment, the news segment. So just adapting and like trying new things. You've never been afraid to like, hey, let's try this, let's do that, let's change the layout of the show. So I think you've been great in doing that. And I think yeah, congratulations to you in 15, 16 years of sticking with it and doing what you love.
well, I appreciate it, and I appreciate you. And listen, we will be right back with more of our final episode of the Stephen Knight Show. Right back after this.